It's the greatest podcast in the history of the world.
It goes high up and under the full foot.
Mackey's taken a ripper! He has a bounce, he crosses 50, he pins the ears back, and he drills the goal!
All the latest news and views from around the VAFA.
Here's the big man!
The big guy.
He's done it again! This bloke extracts some of the finest!
All thanks to Mequicare, proud partner of the VAFA.
Makes a name for himself with these long bombs from outside the arc. It's a long bomb from outside the arc!
This is for the love of the game.
You can tweet that and hashtag it bloody good.
Hello and welcome to For the Love of the Game. As we look ahead to finals time, we are charging towards September at a fearsome rate. Jason Bennett alongside Paddy Grindlay and Matthew Donald. And gentlemen, the piece is certainly right across the board, actually, as we go up and down through the sections as we will today, slowly falling into place in some and quickly falling into place in others as we look ahead to September.
Yes, hello Jace. Good to be beside you again for another edition of For the Love of the Game. Things really heating up across the VAFA. The divisions I cover, but up in William Buck Premier and then in Premier B, things getting very interesting indeed at both ends of the ladder, especially in William Buck Premier. So can't wait to go through it all with you too.
And Matty Donald, as we always keep track of all the divisions up and down through the different sections, a few very interesting results across the weekend and just a few more little pieces of the Tetris puzzle starting to fall into play.
Yes, hello Jace, Paddy, and to everyone tuning in. And the chaos continues as we hitch closer towards the finals. Suddenly every game carries greater significance the closer we get to September. There were some great results on the weekend, some great footy to watch, and looking forward to this weekend as well. It's going to be another beautiful weekend of footy.
And we are officially into final season. The third started their finals on the weekend. We'll go through some of those results a little bit later on and look ahead to a big weekend of finals. We are now officially into it. 6 or 7 weeks in a row of VAFA finals action across Melbourne. It's a fantastic time of year. We'll wrap it all up for you in the next hour or so on For the Love of the Game. But we will start, as we always do, at the top end in Premier Men's, and the reigning premiers have been dragged down into a 4-way relegation race, while last year's minor premiers took a huge step towards another one. But we're going to start in the relegation race and one of the massive matches of the weekend with huge connotations coming in, and so it proved to be when we look at the ladder afterwards. It was Collegians and St Bernard's at the Snake Pit. What a game it turned out to be, and a massive result for Collegians and their coach, JORDIE McKENZIE, in more ways than one.
Yes.
JORDIE joins us now. JORDIE, hey, thanks for your time and what's been an incredibly special weekend for you and your family.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, gents. And an incredible weekend. It was pretty action-packed. Obviously, initially, from a footy point of view, to get a much important, a vital victory was huge. And then the excitement only continued, giving birth to our first child, little baby Grace. So all's going well. Bella was a star. And, we're all very grateful and excited, and all those amazing emotions all in one.
Yeah, fantastic. Let's talk footy first. What do you make of the first half? Because really inaccuracy was the only thing holding you back against St Bernard's. You led by 19 points at the half, but you had 15 more inside 50s and 9 more scoring shots. Was there a little niggle in the back of your mind thinking, oh, geez, we could be further in front, or were you really happy with what you were doing?
Yeah, it's a very good question, because it's one of those ones you've got to be really careful, I think, with the messaging. When you have had a large chunk of the play and you have done a lot right without sort of capitalising on the scoreboard. So, we were big on not going in with the messaging at halftime of, hey, all we have to do is, A and B, and then, we'll run away with it. I think it's important to go in and focus on what actually was working for us as well, because we were doing a lot right. The midfield were incredible all day. The first half was no exception. A lot of really good stuff around the football, and we're able to get our handball receive game going and change angles and give ourselves some really good looks. Now, obviously, probably it was often that, whether it be a bit of composure or at times skill errors, we didn't probably make hay while the sun shined. But it was important to highlight what was working for us. Look, I don't think we're a bad side with the ball in hand, and we're confident if we kept doing the basics well, which you were doing, that the finishing would come. So still definitely an area for us to improve on, but for the boys to come out in the third quarter and have a really good third quarter and get some reward for the hard work was really pleasing.
Now, JORDIE, I just want to ask you a question. At what point did you get the phone call that you had to make the mad dash to the hospital?
Yes, so that was late in the third quarter. So most of our games are this year in particular have been, a fairly high level of stress, and this was obviously no exception. But it was good to have a reasonably comfortable lead when that call came through. So just before three-quarter time, so was able to get out and have a chat to the boys. Didn't obviously mention anything, but after the three-quarter time address, I just snuck off.
You did a smoke bomb, did you?
And,
just the smoke bomb? Drop the smoke bomb and off you were?
Bomb, yeah, used to sometimes doing that at a bar or nightclub, but now we do it Saturday afternoon at a VAFA game, so how times changed. But Jake Trotter and Jack Fitzpatrick took the reins, and look, they all have a lot of input anyway. We're all a very collective coaching group, so for them, it was business as usual, and same for the players. And to finish off the game, reasonably well and get the result was really pleasing.
Well, you say finish off the game, Jordie, but there might be some strong feedback coming from you to those two people, because you actually lost the final quarter. So you'd coached successfully through three quarters, and then you do the smoke bomb and they let you down in the final quarter. You go down in that one.
Very true.
28 points to 20.
Bragging rights.
Come on, Jordie.
Yes, absolutely. No, good to we have a lot of banter, not just the players but coaches as well. So I'll be giving them a bit of stick. Might give them some sort of punishment at training tonight.
Good.
But I did actually. It was a funny experience because I've obviously jumped in the car and had a little bit of a drive, not a really long one, but had put the radio straight on. So heard a lot of the banter along, especially when Fitzy was doing the post game interview, and he mentioned that getting pipped in the last quarters. So definitely made a note, and obviously Paddy Webb joked about myself not being on the receiving end of the winners coaches chat.
You'll do anything to get out of an interview, won't you, Jordie? You'll do anything.
Correct, and sure enough, finally get the win, and I'm on the freeway, so I must be scared that you blokes are going to grill me or something.
Exactly right. For reference, I reckon I've called 6 Collegians games over my 2 years in the VAFA so far. This was the first time where the Lions had actually won, and I'd called it, and I was so excited to speak to Jordie, and then little Grace had to arrive at that exact moment. So a wonderful moment.
Well,
yes, absolutely.
I think, Paddy, this just proves how good a coach Jordie is, because as soon as you take him off the job, look what happens. They start falling away. And it's good to see that you as well, Jordie. Good to hear that you still were focused on the task at hand. You had the radio on to tune into your side.
Correct.
The form has actually been really good from your boys lately. 3.5 wins in the past 6, and one of those defeats was only a 4-point loss to St Kevin's, who themselves are in the top 4. What do you think's been different in the last 6 weeks compared to the rest of the season as far as your Chargers are concerned, the way they've been playing?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and in full credit to the playing group, there's been a lot of challenges that have come our way this year, whether it be injury, unavailability, or anything along those lines. So, and look, we're no different to a lot of other teams in the VAFA as well. So these challenges do come, but for the playing group to and a lot of these boys have played in successful sides pretty consistently throughout their careers. So to be in a different situation, have no shortage of challenges come the group's way. For the playing group to stay upbeat and still enjoy their footy and still roll in on a Tuesday and Thursday with energy and good vibes and an element of desperation to turn our season around, that's been very impressive. And ultimately that does come from the playing group and the leaders. So we're really proud of the boys for that. We know we've still got a huge fight on our hands, but there has been some pleasing improvements, both individually and as a unit. So, it doesn't change too much in regards to the messaging and what we think's improved. But we try and simplify it as much as we can. But essentially, that just honing in on playing your role, especially in those big moments, or especially when the momentum's starting to go against you. Obviously, that can be one of the big challenges with probably a younger side. So for the last 6 weeks in particular, to be able to sort of streamline it a bit, keep it nice and simple, and execute the basics, in particular when you're under pressure, that's been a big improvement, and probably a little bit of natural progression with some of these young boys who are starting to bank up some VAFA senior footy, which is pleasing. So hopefully, 3 weeks for us. We feel like every game's winnable, and if we can keep heading in that right direction, we're really excited for what the next sort of month or so looks like.
Had a rotten run with injuries over the last 2 years, really, Jordie, but great to get a couple of players such as Sam Hibbins and Kenny Ong back, a little bit of experience. But I want to talk about a guy who has been there all year and just continues to get better and better, and that's Max Pinchbeck. who has been just killing it. 47 touches, 10 tackles, 6 clearances. Earlier in the season, we first hit the radar as a tackling machine who was getting touches in the sort of 20s, mid-20s, maybe high 20s. He's obviously just added that extra layer on top. Tell us a bit about Max's development, because he's playing Team of the Year sort of quality football at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely he is. And he deserves any kudos that comes his way, does Max. He's a coach's dream. He's Pinchy. He's look, and a bit of background with Pinchy. He's obviously he's a consistent senior footballer, but as a lot of these tough role-orientated players do when they come through the ranks, they find themselves at half forward a lot. So often, some people might describe it as the graveyard. It's a lot of unrewarded work. Something that Max, does with zero complaints. He's a real A1 type character. Selfless, team first, and he really leads the way. And I'm lucky to have been involved at footy at a lot of different levels, and he's as good as I've seen in regards to that selflessness and team-first mindset. So for him to take his game to another level, by coming into the midfield, he first did it late last year and played some really important roles. And then this year he's just been able to go to a whole new level. Now, he's still been able to do roles as well. That's which makes it more impressive as well. He'll often play on someone and might not be a tight tag, but it could be a head-to-head type role. We know his tackling prowess is incredible, and once again, it's probably the best I've seen at any level. I think he'd probably get a similar amount of tackles if he was playing AFL, to be honest. But look, the weekend was exceptional. In my time at Collegians, approximately sort of 5 years or so, it's probably the best individual game I've seen.
Yeah, wow.
He gets no easy footy. He does it all the hard way, and for him to get forward and hit the scoreboard a couple of times was super impressive. And look, he's got no ego at all, does Max. So we're confident that he can keep building on this, and there's no reason, as you said, he can't be a Team of the Year top player.
And Jordie, I'd like to also apologise to Max Pinchbeck, because, as you know, we pick our Skins Player of the Day on air in the last few minutes of the game, and Dylan Thomas may or may not have got the nod from me for his 4-goal performance. So Max here, 47 disposals and 2 goals, doesn't cut it. I don't know what will.
I reckon you need to go buy Max a pair of skins.
I think that the skins are a starting point for Maxie as well. Might be a box of GYG coming for him as well.
Perfect. You'll appreciate that.
Old Zabs and Old Brighton over the next 2 weeks, so a chance to play against the top 2 teams of the competition, and then De La Salle to finish in what's a thrilling relegation race, Jordie. So do you see the next 2 weeks? Obviously, every game's got huge consequences on it, but do you see the next 2 weeks, in a sense, as a bit of a free swing at Zabs and Brighton, knowing that you've got De La Salle in the final round, to see what happens with Blues and Bernards and Scotch who are all around you?
Yeah. I don't know. We won't approach it as a free swing as such. We're very much and it sounds a bit boring, but week by week, like we honestly believe that our brand of footy stacks up against the best. And from a personnel point of view, you mentioned some of the names that are back and playing well: Kenny Ong, Sam Hibbins, and co. So to have some of them a bit of experience, Corey Cassidy came back in on the weekend as well, as you Will Pockney. So to throw a bit of experience back in the mix, and to not only have experience but those blokes in good form, I think it really complements our younger side. And look, we're bullish with what we can do. We know, we'll be going into, we're just thinking about Zabs now, but the next fortnight we'll be going in probably as reasonably heavy underdogs, which is fair enough. We're playing against 2 really good sides who have put together great years thus far, and no doubt will compete, right through to the business end. But we're confident that we can go in and not only compete, but and do better than that. If we bring our brand of footy, if we bring our pressure, which is a cornerstone of our game, and then hopefully keep building on that offensive side of our game as well. So we're really excited, really looking. So we're just focusing on Zabs for now. There's no reason why we can't hopefully improve significantly on our last outing against them.
Jordie, it's been great having you on. Just a final one from me. You'll be in the dugout with the team this week?
Yes, correct. No, business as usual. Yep. So Bella will head to training tonight. And
Grace under one arm, mate, or has Bella already handed off babysitting duties?
Yeah.
It's not called babysitting when you're parenting. There's your first fail.
Correct. I think Bella's keen to get Grace along to a game at some stage.
Oh, that'd be great.
More the Brighton one or the De La Salle one at this stage, but I'm keen to get her along and meet the Collegians Army for sure.
Jordie, thanks so much for your time, mate. We really appreciate you making the time in such a special week. Congratulations to you and Bella on the birth of Grace. Best of luck for this weekend against Old Zabs. We'll have that game live streaming on VAFA vafa.com.au. We wish you all the best.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, fellas. Really appreciate it. Have a good one.
Always great to catch up with JORDIE McKENZIE, and congratulations to him. We appreciate his time. Well, the big game of the year, Matthew Donald, you were down there at Brighton Beach Oval. First versus second. It was Zavs visiting Old Brighton, and the Tunners extended their winning streak at home. You said they were a certainty. They've won 17 straight now at Fortress Brighton, a definitive 33-point win over the previous league leaders, Old Zavarians. The Tunners trailed by 2 points at the first change. They kicked 4 goals to 1 in the second term, got out to 19 points up at the major break, led by 4 first-half goals from last year's 2024 VAFA rising star, Joey Campeely.
Yeah, no, it was a terrific performance from Old Brighton and from Campeely as well. In fact, both Campeelys were terrific at the weekend for the Tunners. Very interesting game. We normally talk about the breeze there at Brighton Beach Oval that it blows to the far side of the ground, or the right-hand side if you're watching it on the VAFA TV. The scoring end was actually the opposite end, which was where the Zavs were kicking in the first term and dominated the territory. And they had the ball in their half for pretty much the entirety of the first term. But every time Old Brighton went forward, which was only a handful of occasions, they actually managed to kick a couple of goals. And Jonah Campeely kicked 2 in that first term. And then when Old Brighton got the scoring end in the second term, they made the most of it. They kicked 4 goals to 1, built out a big buffer at half-time. The Zavs came back in the third term. They had the game on their terms again, but just couldn't get the goals on the board. 1 goal 7 in that third term, while the Tunners managed 1 goal 3 going up the other end. And then Old Zavs came back in the final term. They kicked a couple of goals. They got the margin back to a couple of kicks at one point, but then the Tunners kicked away again in the final term to take out a reasonably comfortable 33-point victory in the end. Probably had the game on their terms for most of the game and was certainly the more efficient of the two sides going forward. It now means that we've got a definitive premiership frontrunner with a handful of games to go until the finals. Old Brighton now a game clear in outright first.
Yeah, 1 game clear with 3 rounds to play after snapping the Zavs' 8-game winning streak. Great performance from Old Brighton. What did Marcel Bruin have to say?
Yeah,
Paddy?
real focus I can see from Soupy to apply a lot of pressure on the Old Zavs' disposal, and they did that really well, the Tunners, throughout the course of the game, because we know how dangerous the Zavs can be when they can get clean footy up front to the likes of Charlie McIsaac. And then they played some really good patches of front half footy as well and had repeat opportunities, good opportunities inside 50. And when you've got Joey Campeely in the form that he's in at the moment at VFL level, playing in a VAFA team, well, that's just about day done. Louis Butler again, terrific down back. And Gus Cork, who I think is a massive story for the Tunners in the defensive unit, had another super game along with Geordie Seagar.
And from a Dan Donati perspective, their first loss after 8 straight wins. What did Dan make of it?
So he was happy with the start that the Zavs put together, but didn't take advantage of the opportunities that they gave themselves in that opening term. And a couple of costly turnovers just allowed Old Brighton into the game, and that was something that maintained its way throughout the course of the afternoon, that they committed some crucial turnovers at some important stages in the match. It was a really fast, tight game for most of the contest, but the Tunners were just too good when the final siren sounded.
Off to TH King, and St Kevin saw off a determined Uni Blacks to take a giant step towards yet another final series for the Skull. But it was a hot start. There were 2 goals in 5 minutes to the Blacks, got away to the perfect start, and then a couple of quick goals to St Kevin's through Critchley and Darmody, levelled it up. They went goal for goal pretty much for the rest of the first half. 2 goals apiece in the second term. It was Skull by 7 points at the half. Third quarter turned out to be a high-scoring game, some exciting footy. St Kevin's eventually seized the initiative. They kicked 3 goals in time on, got out to 14 points up at the last break. And, of course, we remember the last time these two teams met, the Blacks pulled off the comeback of the year. They kicked 3 goals in the last 3 minutes, and they displayed that grit once again. It's been their trademark this year. They kicked 3 of the first 4 goals of the final term to actually hit the front by a point at the 25-minute mark, at which point everybody's looking around going, no, surely not again. Will Pfeiffer then kicked a goal 90 seconds later. He gave Scob back the lead, and after another 4 desperate minutes, Sam Critchley kicked his 5th. He was best of field. St Kevin's get up in the end in another thriller, and it ensures pretty much that they'll play in September for a 7th straight year. For the Blacks, it's a setback in their finals hopes, but they're just 1 game and a percentage behind the Bloods in the race for the 4. So they've got a couple of make-or-break games over the next fortnight. Certainly not out of it. St Kevin's play Old Haileybury away, De La Salle at home, St Bernard's away. Uni Blacks have got the Blues. What a game that's going to be this week at Melbourne University. The Blacks could send the Blues back into the relegation zone. The Blues could scuttle the Blacks' finals hopes. It is perfectly positioned. It's going to be our SEN match of the day, actually. It's going to be a fun one. Then they've got the Blacks' Old Scotch and Old Zabs to finish. So an interesting run home. St Kevin's, they look like they're there in September again for a 7th straight year. What did Plugger Lynch have to say?
Yeah, they do, St Kevin's. It's just what you come to expect from Plugger Lynch and his men. It was a close game of footy all day, so the mental side of things key for Plugger Lynch, with both sides having periods of control. And when the Uni Blacks hit the front late, the coaches sort of looked at each other and sort of realised this was the formative moment of the year. They were going to find out a bit about the group, and they actually did, St Kevin's, in a positive way. They handled the finish perfectly, 4 scoring shots and able to lock the ball in their front half of the ground, which shows tremendous growth, I think, from the corresponding game earlier in the season. And if you speak to people down at the TH King, to Anthony Lynch and his players, it did really rock them, that game of footy, and they did have to do a fair bit of soul-searching and response to that game of football, the way that ended up at the University Oval. Not this time, though, and it does create a bit of a wrinkle now for the University Blacks. Yes, they are within a game of the Bloods in that pursuit for 4th spot, but with 3 games left, they're a game and some 18 or 17.5% back from 4th position. So they're going to have to win an extra game as compared to the Bloods, and then maybe take another one over Old Haileybury, or hope that the percentage gap narrows down, which is going to be a tricky thing with 3 games remaining in the season.
They've got the Blues, Old Scotch and Old Zabs, so at least 2 games there that you would say they are favourites to win, given the form. Mind you, there's not much between Blacks and Blues right now. That's going to be a tough one. Dale Bauer, what did he have to say? Because, again, they showed great grit. They were almost there and just couldn't quite get over the line in the end, the Blacks.
Yeah, and he credited that they fought hard throughout the course of the match to stay in it, even when they were second best, and the fact that they still managed to hit the front in the last term despite all of that, but just weren't able to finish it off. Consider that St Kevin's were better in the ground ball contest and the stoppage throughout the majority of the game, and that led to having a significant advantage in the territory stakes as well. Crediting the inside 50 count, heavily favoured in St Kevin's. That final count was 62-38. So you can tell in terms of the balance of play, it was certainly in favour of St Kevin's. But there's still a bit to work on for Uni Blacks. But I tell you what, they're going to be a plucky side between now and the end of the year. They'll cause headaches if they can sneak into that top 4.
Old Haileybury consolidated its hold on 4th spot. We're talking about the Bloods and hanging on. The much-needed win over D-Lar at Waverley Oval. They'd lost 4 of their previous 5, the Bloods. They needed to regain a bit of form and confidence, but D-Lar equally determined to make them work for it. The hosts generated 5 shots to 3 in the first term, but kicked 2-3 to 3 behind, so they were 3 points down at quarter time. Andreas Stefanakis causing havoc once again. He kicked all 3 goals in the first quarter for Old Haileybury, on his way to 6 for the afternoon. D-Lar, while they were continually plagued by inaccuracy, they kicked 1-3 to 3-3, and the Bloods edged out to 15 points up at half-time. More of the same in the third. Old Haileybury just a little bit better at converting their opportunities. They kicked 3-2 to 1-1, got out to 28 points at three-quarter time. D-Lar dug in, kicked a couple of goals in the last term to get back to 16 points, but Connor Riley kicked a goal that settled the Bloods, and ultimately they broke clear to run out 37-point winners. 4 precious premiership points, keeps them a game ahead of the Blacks in that race to secure 4th. Old Haileybury play St Kevin's at home, St Bernard's away, and they finish at home against Old Scotch. D-Lar have got Brighton, St Kevin's and Collegians. So for Old Haileybury, Paddy, a massive win for Daniel Ward.
Yeah, and he's happy with an improved effort after a poor fortnight. They're still searching for their best footy, but good to be improving at this time of the year rather than falling away. An important win for their footy club. They knew that D-Lar came into that contest with good form, did the Bloods hierarchy, and D-Lar controlled the ball in the air at both ends of the ground in the first half and were on top at stages, but Daniel Ward and the Bloods lifted their work rate in the third term and got reward for effort and finished the game off well. They get the 4 points that will be crucial for their finals hopes in 2025. On to Nick Highland and D-Lar, Matthew.
Yeah, and he was he thought that his team were a little off to start the match, but was pleased with the way that they were able to wrestle back momentum. It was a very even first half in the end, but as we mentioned earlier, it was the conversion in front of goal that was the downfall for D-Lar South, 6-3 to 3-6 at halftime. And in the second half that they were just outplayed. Old Haileybury were the better side around stoppage, and it gave them the field position. And that for D-Lar, for Nick Highland's boys, they were sloppy with the fundamentals in the second half, and that's what ultimately saw them fall short in the end.
And the thriller of the day was at Melbourne University. The Uni Blues continued their late season revival. They knocked off Old Scotch in a result that could prove pivotal in the race to avoid relegation, because it has dragged the Cardinals back down into the relegation battle. The Blues were wayward early. They squandered their chances to seize the initiative. They kicked 1-7 in the opening term. They actually trailed by 8 points at quarter time. That continued in the second term. They trailed by 5 points at the major break, despite having 10 more inside 50s and 5 more scoring shots. The game tightened up in the third term, 2-1 in favour of the Blues. They got within a point at the last break. It took 11 minutes for either team to kick a goal in the last term. The Blues found one via Charlie Furphy in a set shot there. An immediate response from the Cards. Andy Gelbart gave them back the lead. George McCulloch then kicked a brilliant Rovers goal, dribbled it through from the boundary line in the pocket to give the Blues the lead, entering time on. Then Sam Grimley, a strong contested mark. He kicked the sealer 26 minutes in, lifted the Blues to 7th spot. They've jumped from 9th to 7th, alongside the Cards now on 24 points, half a game ahead of the drop zone. And, well, for the Cards, not only is their premiership defence now over, they also find themselves, as I mentioned, in that relegation race with 3 rounds remaining. And it begins with one of the most important games of the season this week, a blockbuster against the Snow Dogs this weekend. So for the Blues, they've got the Blacks. We've spoken about that game. It'll be a cracker. They've got Old Zabs and Brighton to finish. So if the Blues can just find a win this weekend, kick themselves a little bit further clear of the drop zone, and then hang on for dear life against the top 2 over the last fortnight. And then for Scotch, well, they've got Bennett this week. If they can win, they can settle themselves and they should be right to survive. But if they lose, they then play the Blacks and Old Haileybury away in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and they're 2-5 on the road in 2025, which is the second worst away record. And when you consider that D-Lar is the worst away record, they haven't won a game, of course.
What a game this week, Bernards and Scotch.
Yeah,
and not one that, say, 2 months ago that you would have thought would be for this reason. You're probably thinking at that point they might both be fighting for 4th spot or 3rd spot. And now they're fighting to avoid relegation, which is incredible. Matt Smith, Uni Blues, great to see them get another win in a close one. It's a couple in a row now they've managed to find the formula on.
Yes, it's a tricky start to the year for Matt Smith, the story of the 2025 season, but they've been able to actually win some games late, which is a great reward for them, especially when you consider losing games after the siren and the draws in the early part of the year. They were cost early by inaccuracy. They could have applied some more scoreboard pressure, Matt Smith felt, but weren't able to do that and found themselves trailing despite having 6 more scoring shots by halftime and feeling as if they'd controlled a large portion of the match to date. And they found that Scotch were able to respond to any sort of goals that they were able to kick, but then got away from things, especially down the stretch, and probably showed, I think, a level of maturity and signs that they've been there before and learnt from previous games. From the Scotch side of things, Matty, before we get to Mark Nat's comments, we do know that in 2 weeks' time they're going to get some reinforcements with the VFL players that haven't been featuring over the last couple of weeks, the likes of James Tarrant and Alex Noblett.
And they might be playing Haileybury in the final round, and the Bloods need to win to make the finals, and Old Scotch need to win to avoid relegation.
So things will get really, really interesting down the stretch. Let's move to Mark Nat.
Yeah, those blokes can't come back quickly enough for Old Scotch, can they? Well, Mark Nat was keen to take the positive, the glass half full approach to this. He credited the way that the Cardinals were able to move the ball, saying that their chains had improved and that created good scoring opportunities in the first half, and that there were chances for the Cardinals to win the game, but they just weren't able to take it in the end for them. But the immediate focus now turns to St Bernard's this weekend, and a huge game for both sides. So that's where the focus remains now for Old Scotch.
Tips to come a little bit later in the show. Premier Men's is just continuing to pick up pace every week, as is Premier B. We'll talk Premier B right after this on For the Love of the Game.
Tickets are now on sale for one of the signature events on the VAFA calendar, the 2025 William Buck VAFA Finals Luncheon, held on Friday, September 5 at Zinc Fed Square. Join us as we celebrate the road to the VAFA and AFL Finals with 5-time Premiership player Dermot Brereton and 2-time Brownlow medalist Greg Diesel Williams. Secure your tickets today at vafa.com.au.
Hey guys, at GYG we never compromise on the quality of our food. That's why we only serve 100% free-range chicken. We're on a mission to reinvent fast food, because who said fast food had to be bad food? Love ya.
This is For the Love of the Game, thanks to Mequicare, looking after 16,500 people across Victoria each and every week. And it is time to talk Premier B, Paddy. And this Premier B puzzle, well, it refuses to solve itself at this point. Week after week after week, it just continues to get tighter. We've got our Premier B showcase this week where we're live streaming every single Premier B game across the weekend. And hey, it might just make it more complicated. Who knows?
Oh, correct. We've got a 4-team battle for 4th with 4 teams that are 8-7, and we're at round 16 of this Premier B season. It's just been, quite frankly, a ridiculous year of football. Williamstown currently hold the coveted 4th place by a tick over 1.5% from Old Camberwell. So it's fitting, really, that we speak to the coach of the Wellers, NEIL CONNELL, who enjoyed another good win at the weekend. Hello, Neil.
Yeah, g'day, Paddy. Thanks for the invite to come on.
Oh, mate, pleasure's all ours. Tell me what you've put into this team since the double bye, because since you came back from the Big V break, you look to be firing on all cylinders.
Oh, I don't know whether we've done anything different. We still trained. I gave them a few nights off, but we still trained. I just think that, it's just been a part of our education, just trying to keep finding the way we want to play. And I think that over the break, we still went back and had a look at what we did and what we weren't doing right. And I think, the boys are starting to click and starting to play a way that we feel comfortable that we can challenge if we get it right.
Neil, it's a great show of resilience and grit from your team because you were 4-5 at the break and you'd lost 4 on the trot. And it's pretty easy at this point of the season to start thinking, oh, gee, it's all getting a bit hard. We can see teams disappearing off into the horizon ahead of us. This is not going to be our year. But clearly your guys reset themselves and you and the coaching staff have managed to maintain the rage and maintain the belief.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, we haven't been really blown away. I think our biggest margin was against Old Geelong, 40 points. So I think we're averaging, defeats around average 25 or something around there. But I think there was a belief that we just had to get a few things right. And one of the things was getting used to the tempo of B-grade football. I know we played last year, but, the clubs come from D1 to C and now to B. And as you guys would know, D1 to C grade, like is a jump, but then C to B is even a bigger jump with the tempo, with the pace, with the teams you're playing against, with the pressures on you all the way. So I think it's just been getting used to that and getting our training standards up and just getting comfortable within those the pressure games. And we've been able to, rest momentum back in some games, but we have those games we lost. We got back into the games, but we couldn't just hold on. So we knew if we could put it all together, as I said earlier, we thought we could challenge some sides.
So I'll take you back to your game on Saturday, Neil. So up against the Old Melburnians, who have been really solid this year. They've been unfortunate with injury and availability, especially since the double bye. But you held them to just 2 goals after quarter time while you piled on 13 of your own, 114 to 43 winners. And you boosted your percentage by nearly 6%, Neil, which is what I want to ask you about. How critical was it for you to not just beat the Old Melburnians, but beat them up a little bit as well?
Well, we didn't really even talk about percentage or anything like that. It was just basically about, every game's important. We want to get as many wins as we can, and the rest will take care of itself. But we went in with a plan. But, Old Melburnians come out really strong the first. I think they had the first 4 shots on goal. So it was game on early, and we just settled, I think, and we started to, hit our targets, make better decisions with ball. We turned the ball over a bit early, and I thought it was mainly because it wasn't decision-making, it was basically execution. So we had to get that tidied up. And then I think, basically after half-time, we just got the tempo of the game right. The times when we wanted to go fast, the times we wanted to go slow, times we wanted to switch it, times we wanted to go down the line. And our forward 50 entries was probably the best supply or we've had all year to our forwards inside the forward 50.
Neil, congratulations on the win on the weekend. You mentioned that it was a sluggish start. Do you reflect on that as a good test, that under pressure your players are able to settle and work and in a really important game get the flow of the match on your terms?
Yeah, but I've put a lot of trust and faith in the playing group. We have a match review every Tuesday, and some of it's really driven by the players. There's discussion and all that around, and we've got a real good understanding of the way I want to play. And I've said to many times to the players, you see it out there, say it. See something, say it, and get it done, because, as you know, we're standing on the boundary line and the ball's on the other side of the oval and we can't get a runner out. So we've got to get the boys to start fixing themselves on the ground. And to their credit, there was numbers behind the ball. Old Melburnians had a spare behind the ball, and we just had to adjust to get around that, and we did. And credit goes to the boys out on the ground for thinking on the spot and getting it done. So I do put a lot of trust in the playing group to sort it out, because we've got a pretty strong belief or strong understanding of what we want to do, but it's just trying to get it done.
It's an exciting week for Premier B. We've loved the competition all season long, Neil. And this week, thanks to our production partners, MySport Live, all 5 Premier B games are going to be live streamed simultaneously on Saturday afternoon for the first time in VAFA history, which is fantastic. So people that may not have got a chance to see much Premier B footy this year will get an opportunity to sample it and realise just how damn good it has been in 2025. If they're tuning in to watch the game, your game, Old Camberwell and Caulfield, which is going to be enormous, what should they be looking for? What does the game look like when it's on your terms? And what are you expecting Caulfield to bring to the table? How do they play? Where are their strengths?
Well, with our game, we've just got to win. We got to. I think it's every side the same. You've got to start winning it at the coalface. We've got to win contested ball, but it's controlling the game and not giving it back. Because we scored 9, I think, from turnovers last week. So we've got to limit that, and we can't give it back to Caulfield because they'll punish us. They've got a very good side. So hopefully that people, if they're watching our game, will see that, we play in different tempos and different speeds according to the game and where we are on the ground. So hopefully that we can control the game and, give our forwards the supply and in the right spots, not just dump kicking it in the 50. But DeBoz, I suppose, they're forward. I mean, he's been around a long time, played a lot of really good Prem footy. So, they're the guy. Now, they've got some really good players who've played Prem footy. So we've got to make sure that, we can match them with the intensity around the ball. Last time they got us down at their ground. So I think, they've just got some real quality, and we've got some quality around the ball too with our midfielders as well. So it's a fantastic test for us.
And Neil, as you say, it's going to be a huge game for you this weekend. Neil, we've talked about how tight the ladder is and the jostling for that final spot in the top 4. Inside, internally, in terms of your club and your position at coach, is it difficult to I suppose, look or set aside that distraction of being so close to the finals and how tight the race is, and just focus on the task at hand week to week?
Oh, look, I mean, it's the players, they see all the scores coming through, and they're on the VAFA site and they see all that sort of stuff. And, it's been a solid year. And as you said earlier, we dropped 4 games and we were up against it a little part there. But now we've sort of got our mojo back, or if you like, or we've got a little bit of confidence in the way we've been playing and the way we can play. But, it's great, it's great to be in this position, with 3 games to go, because the energy's up around the club. The players are training, they're all up and about. And if you're sort of well out of it with 3 games to go, it can be a long 3 weeks. So around the club, the vibe's pretty good. But there's huge challenges in the next 3 weeks, and it starts on Saturday.
Caulfield, Old Geelong and Williamstown CYMS to finish. So a team that's 2 games ahead of them already sitting in 3rd spot. Then 2 other teams on 32. And given, Paddy, when you have a look at the other teams on 32, it's Willie, Old Carey, Old Geelong on 32 as well. And you think, well, if Camberwell can find a way to win this game, they could take a huge step towards the finals. Can't wait. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be a pearl, and you'll be able to watch it all unfold on vafa.com.au. Neil Connell, thanks for your company.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, boys.
Good luck, mate. Neil Connell and Camberwell, well, what a crossroads game it is for them. If they can get the job done this week, that might just give them a 1-game buffer over those other teams hunting for spot, Paddy, 2 of which they have to play on the run home. Yeah, it's a freakish run home. It's been a wonderful year all year in Premier B, and I think round 15, which we're about to go through, was no different. The team they're playing this week, Old Camberwell, is Caulfield Grammarians, and they come in with a bit of pep in their step because it was one of the great games of Premier B footy at the Firen Reserve at the weekend, where they came up against Williamstown CYMS. So 3rd playing 4th, and the Fields travelling, get their 2nd win over the CYs of the season, 14-15-99 to 14-7-91. But I encourage you, if you haven't already, to go back to VAFA TV and watch especially the second half of this game, because it was chock full of highlights. Spoke to both coaches after the game, and Paul Saddley's pointing to the speckies of Zach Provost of Williamstown CYMS. A couple of absolute beauties I've seen on socials.
You've seen them on social media. Our man Dylan does a great job in charge of the VAFA HQ handles, and you would have seen the number 12 from Williamstown go for a fly, but also the finish to this game of footy. It looked like Caulfield were in a really good spot across the the front end of the 3rd quarter to win this game of footy. They jumped about 5 goals clear, but then Williamstown came rattling back into the game. Provost kicked 4 goals in that 3rd term, and then they had the better of things to start the final term, and they're at home. It's a beautiful day for footy. That's a very, very loud pro-Williamstown crowd at the Firen Reserve, and they kicked 4 of the first 5 goals of that final term. But some moments from Dylan Ting and Tom Williams down the stretch. Dylan Ting, he's a really handy footballer, a great aerialist for a smaller guy, but when he hits the ground, he's just as good. The goal he kicks in the right forward pocket to put Caulfield Grammarians back in front needs to be seen. It's a wonderful goal, and you can really hear the travelling field supporters getting around their squad. They come steaming home. They kick 4 goals in time on Caulfield Grammarians after being 17 points down at the 21-minute mark.
So they've gone from 5 goals up to 3 goals down and come back and won it by 8 points.
Yeah, they win it by 8 points. And
Oof, what a game.
Williams and Ting with 2 goals apiece in the final 10 minutes of the game. And yeah, Williamstown CYMS, hearts broken. They've now lost their 3 games since the resumption of the season following the double bye, and they just have to lean on the fact that they've been really resilient over the last 18 months. Of course, they were just about relegated in season 2024 before they managed to save their season late. But for the Fields, it's a similar story. It came to the very last week of 2024. They avoided the double drop coming down from William Buck Premier to Premier B in 2024. Paul Satterley is now in charge, and he's found a group that's got a hunger that he says has been just a little bit untapped. Julian Dobos, who was mentioned by Neil Connell a few moments ago, incredible with 29 disposals, 8 marks and 5 goals up front. Hamish McInerney and Noah Sutherland, a few other Fields to note.
Almost the perfect game. 28 goals. I reckon anywhere in the 30-goal vicinity, if you're somewhere around that makes for very entertaining viewing for the neutrals. The other tight game of the weekend was at Daily Oval. It was Old Trinity taking on Old Geelong, and in the end, the Tees managed to get the job done for another important win.
Yes, so they're not quite locked in to the top 2 spot, the Tees, but they're not too far away. Old Ivanhoe is. And they had their work cut out for them, especially early. Old Geelong kicked the first 3 goals of the game. The Tees responded with the next 3 to keep things tight by quarter time, and then managed to steadily increase the advantage across the middle quarters. They led by 21 points at the start of the final term and then did enough down the stretch to hold off the Ogs, 83-64 victors, and the Ogs are back now in that chasing pack for 4th. The storyline here for the Tees and for Donald McDonald is Dom Payman. So he was a guy who led the goal kicking, I believe, in 2024, including finals. He got the go for Coburg this year, but he's been injured for much of the season. He was on a minutes restriction. It was his first VAFA game since round 5 and only his second of the season. He kicks 5 goals, and he was a really important focal point up front for the Tees. The story with them for the last few weeks has been their availability for those taller players, but good news for Old Trinity. Charlie Beasley, Hugh Beasley, Boston Dowling and Tom Ferrier.
Oh, wow.
Donald McDonald tells me they're all available for this weekend.
That is a massive difference maker.
And they're going to get Hugo McGlashan back, who was a late out at the weekend as well.
And they'll take on Fitzroy. Old Geelong, meanwhile, disappointing for them. They've been close against some of these top teams. And again, they'll face the top team this week in Old Ivanhoe. Can they manage to pinch one? Amazing thing is they sit in 7th, Matty, but they're outside on percentage.
Yeah.
At this time of the year, they're 10% outside of the top 4. And as we've mentioned, they've got a couple of games in the run home where they get a chance to knock over teams above them. So they are still well and truly alive, but just an incredible ladder.
And the fact that they've got a record of 8 and 7 and sits 7th on the ladder gives you an idea on just how competitive it is at the top end at this time of year. But again for them against a very good side in Old Trinity, they had the lead at quarter time and stuck with them for most of the match. But in the end, just falling 19 points short, 12-11-83, Old Trinity, Geelong 9-10-64. So despite, and we know how good Old Trinity are, but Old Geelong really stuck with them for most of the day. They're never really getting beyond that 3-4 goal mark in the end. But a couple of winnable games, a couple of 8-point games now for Old Geelong as we approach the back end of the season. So still very much time for them to crack into that top 4 and separate themselves from that logjam that exists there.
A couple of big wins for Old Ivanhoe and Old Carey. Old Ivanhoe 2014-134 defeated Fitzroy 7-13-55 by 79 points. Old Carey 18-15-123 defeated Hampton 7-13-55 by 68 points. Any talking points out of those two?
Yeah, we'll be super quick on this one. Old Ivanhoe, outside of a mathematical improbability, I should say, has now locked away a spot inside a top 2, and that's a massive achievement for that football club. They, of course, came up with Old Camberwell last year to Premier B, and Jared Geeshan told me post-game that if you'd said to him with a few weeks left that they've now got the opportunity to play for a grand final, of course he would take it, but they haven't really thought about that much. They're still trying to find their best 22 and their best style of footy. Fitzroy were really good in the first half of that game of footy, as were Hampton in their game as well, but then ran over by a very good team later in the piece. The story, though, for Old Ivanhoe, fingers crossed for Sam Allen, who went down with a knee injury. They saw a doctor for that one. He's had some scans. The club's still hopeful he could feature again in 2025.
Another 5 goals to Billy Murphy as he continues to roll along, the league best and fairest.
Might be 3 in a row for Billy Murphy, 1 in Premier C, 2 in Premier B. He's been superb this year. Alex Murkov with 20 disposals, 55 hit-outs and 2 goals might take some votes off him.
So it is our Premier B showcase coming up this weekend. It's all about Premier B this coming Saturday. All 5 games live streaming on vafa.com.au. Tips to come a little bit later on. We'll take a break. Be back straight after this with Premier C.
Are you looking to grow your business? William Buck are more than just accountants and advisors who can develop strategic growth plans for your business. With over 125 years' experience, William Buck has expertise in navigating through challenging times and has been working closely with the VAFA community, creating positive change for individuals, businesses and community organisations. William Buck's team of specialist advisors work collaboratively, providing you with 360 support. Schedule a complimentary consultation today by visiting williambuck.com.
This is for the love of the game. Thanks to Meckwacare. We're going to talk Premier C now. We're going to start with the Battle of the Peas. It was Parkdale Vultures against Paran, top versus bottom. But gentlemen, at three-quarter time, it was Parkdale 10-6-66, Paran 9-6-60. There was one goal in this game. We were keeping an eye on this one throughout the afternoon. And in the end, Parkdale kicked 5-1 in the last term to run away 32-point winners. But Matty, again, just further evidence that anyone can beat anyone on their day, and that was one heck of a scare for Parkdale.
Yeah, absolutely it was. I mean, I don't think anyone would have expected that coming into three-quarter time.
And an important one. If they lose that game, they lost top spot.
Yep, again as well. So a big win for Parkdale. They'll bank the 4 points and they'll be happy with that, but that'll be a wake-up call for them.
Pegs, comfortable, 69-point winners over Parkside, 14-7-91, defeated Parkside 2-10-22 at Pitcher Park. Meanwhile, at Packer Park, it was Ajax, 15-15-105, defeating Glenira Old McKinnon, 10-9-69 by 36 points. Bowie, massive win. Gee, they've hit form at the right time of the year. Not that they've actually been out of form really at any stage this year, but they are playing some very, very compelling football right now. Beau Morris, 21-18-144, defeated Marcelin, 7-5-47 by 97 points. And speaking of looking powerful and coming good and being in form and confident at the right time of the year, St Bede's Mentone Tigers, 26-11, 167, defeated Mazenod 8-8-56 by 111 points. So a couple of big wins there for Bowie and the Tigers. If we take a look at the ladder, Matty, what's landed here after round 15 of action?
Well, that win for Parkdale, as you said, Jace, consolidates their spot atop the ladder. They're still one game clear of Beau Morris, who have a sizable percentage advantage over Parkdale as well. Then we've got Ajax and St Bede's Mentone, who are tied a game back in third and fourth, separated by about 46%, but level on 12 wins each. Then there's a big gap back to Pegs, who are 3 games behind in fifth. And then another big gap. Glenira in 6th with 5 wins to their name. Marcelin in 7th with a record of 4-11. Mazenod and Parkside with 3 wins sitting in 8th and 9th on the table and 14% separating them. Mazenod with the advantage there. Paran in 10th still looking for their first win of 2025.
So it's a 3. The top 4 are set. Parkdale, Beau Morris, Ajax and St Bede's. It'll only be a question of what order they finish in. But that relegation race is very interesting. Paran will go down, haven't won a game. But then Marcelin on 16 at 64.5. 1 game back to Mazenod, 12, 70.1, and Parkside, 12, 56.2. So just 1 game between Mazenod, Marcelin, and Parkside with 3 games to play.
Yeah, and Parkside play Mazenod this weekend.
Oh, that could be the one.
Yeah, at Pitcher Park, 2 p.m. Be there because that's going to be a crucial game of footy and a pretty crucial one for Parkside as they look at their run home. They get Glenira Old McKinnon in round 17 before they finish out the year with St Bede's Mentone, the Tigers away. So
the time is now for those teams then. This weekend, can they get a win and shake the relegation race up again? Time for a break. We're going to talk thirds, finals and divisional footy right after this.
Tickets are now on sale for one of the signature events on the VAFA calendar, the 2025 William Buck VAFA Finals Luncheon, held on Friday, September 5 at Zinc Fed Square. Join us as we celebrate the road to the VAFA and AFL finals with 5-time Premiership player Dermot Brereton and 2-time Brownlow medalist Greg Diesel Williams. Secure your tickets today at vafa.com.au.
Would you like to get more closely involved with footy and enjoy the unique camaraderie and bonds that exist in and around footy clubs? VAFA clubs are always looking for volunteers to assist with the weekly running of the club, both on and off the field. Log on to vafa.com.au and check out our club directory to find a club near you.
This is for the love of the game, thanks to Meckwacare. And finals, gentlemen, kicked off over the weekend. We are into the stretch. And that's the thing about the VAFA. We've got 31 different sections. So our final series are spread out over 6 weeks. So finals are officially up and rolling. We're allowed to have finals fever now. There's a bit of it broken out through the office. I think Bossy, the Peacock's got a bit of finals fever this week. It started with Thirds Division 5 over the weekend. They had 2 finals, their first weekend finals. And it was Hawthorn Thirds, 11-10-76, defeating St Mary's Salesian 6-4-40 by 36 points. And Wattle Park thirds, 11-19-85 defeated Ajax 7-12-54 by 31 points. That was the qualifying final. So Hawthorn are through in the elimination final. St Mary's Salesian season is over. This weekend, the rest of the thirds are all in action. Their first weekend of finals, plus Division 2 and Division 4 women's as well kick off their finals campaign. So to everyone who's playing finals this weekend, congratulations for making it and all the best for this weekend's matches. Time to talk divisional footy now. And when we talk divisional footy, we've got to go straight to the guru, the BAFA newshound. BRAYDEN May joins us. BRAYDEN, thanks for your time.
Hey guys, how are we? Finals, it's getting closer. Some massive results over the weekend that's going to shape those top fours. So it's really exciting.
Let's start with Division 1 as we usually do with our wrap, and all eyes to a team that we've just admired all year long, and they've finally broken a long-standing club record, and that is Ormond, who remain undefeated after a 43-point win over Preston, 17-15, 117, defeating the Bull Ants 11-8, 74. What a season Kyle Pinto's team is having.
Yeah, they're an awesome football side. I actually stopped in to watch about half the game on the weekend, and I don't know what it is. They're just so well drilled. Like they didn't panic. They were challenged really early by the Bull Ants. They kicked 1-7 in the first quarter. And young side, they are a young side. They can panic, but Kyle brought them in and said, boys, I'm not worried about the score. We're losing, but you're doing everything right, and it will turn. And it absolutely turned. The second quarter, young Sam Bailey, he spent some time in the Coast League this year. Ripping player, just ball hit the deck, clean, super user, broke the game open. Against the Bull Ants side, that they've got some guys that can trouble you. We've spoken about the coach, Tommy Hill. What a leader he is. He just sits there and directs his guys, doesn't get angry or anything. Nick Perizzolo, a really tall mobile forward for the Bull Ants. He caused a few headaches for the smaller Ormond defence. It was a really good contest, but Ormond were just able to make more of their chances.
So they broke the senior men's match-winning streak of 15 that was created by the club back in 1955. So they've broken a 70-year record with 16 in a row and equals the record of 16 in a row that they created in their foundation year, their very first year of existence, Ormond, back in 1932. So they are having an historical year. Now, in 1955, when they won 15 in a row, just out of interest, they lost to OMs in round 16, won their next two, then lost both finals, including the grand final. Both to OM. So how do you lose both finals and still make the granny? Well, in those days, it was a different finals arrangement, but OMs beat them once and then beat them again. So Ormond, in the end, had that incredible year and didn't go on and win the flag. But this year, at the moment, it feels like, obviously, it is they are the benchmark of teams to chase. But in fairness, Brayden, there's some very good other teams in D1 that are doing the chasing.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I think the one that we're all hotly keen to talk about is Old Peninsula. What a statement that was. What an absolute statement. Like Nathan Jones come in, and I think the great thing was, like, people might say, oh, what's he doing there? He's playing with mates, and that's what footy's all about. He played alongside a couple of his good mates, and he kicked six. One of our guys popped in and said he's super fit. He looks like he could run out for Melbourne this week.
And the man himself, Nathan Jones, joins us now. Jonesy, thanks so much for your time. Congratulations on your VAFA debut. You might be due for a Rising Star nomination or something. 6 goals on debut. You're a good young kid. You've got maybe a career in front of you.
I don't know about that, Jace, but it was actually great fun. Had an awesome day. It's been brewing for a while. All the boys, the old boys at Peninsula Pirates have been on to me all. And there's a sort of funny connection. I coached the school, old boy at the school, and a couple of my mates playing. Brendan, who's obviously the coach, and Sam Gill, who's just come on in recent times playing there, of my very close childhood friends. So, mate, and I found some time in my busy schedule to get a game in on the weekend, and now see if I can squeeze in one more.
So, mate, you're clearly loving it. So 6 snags in the sunshine. You look like you might qualify for finals. You're playing for a very good team. Take me through what you enjoyed most about the experience.
I think, it was, well, when I woke up on the morning of the game, my wife goes, you feel it all? Do you even actually remember how to play? And at that point, I was like, in a couple of years, and I still kick the balls around at obviously coaching at Melbourne, but really sure, but I do keep relatively fit. So I think it was that, irrespective of the level that you're playing at, when you just get back out there and you're playing with mates, as you said, it was a pretty beautiful day down there, and nostalgia involved, obviously being back on the school footy ground where I played a lot of my junior, and being around, friends and family, a lot of the local community and stuff. Cool to get out there and have a kick of the footy again and feel like, in some regard, that you're a bit of a kid, having a kick and a catch and enjoying it for what it is. And, I played a bit of local, also my local junior club a couple of years ago, which was Mount Eliza, and to then come back and play in the VAFA and obviously my old school team. I just love community. I don't have the time to commit to it full time, but I think the engagement with the community in particular and what it means to those, pretty cool to go back and, I guess, soak up that energy.
Nathan, I can hear it in your voice, the excitement when you talk about returning to playing football. And you've touched on it a couple of times, the idea of playing with your friends and just enjoying footy. And that's one of the best parts of footy at this level. Must be a really special experience to be able to enjoy that.
Yeah, well, the two boys, and Dunn, who's the coach of the Pirates, and Sam Gill, who started playing about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I think he started playing as well. So those two boys, we played first footy back in 2004. So it was 21 years since we last played a game together, 3 of us. So, obviously, as I said, the nostalgia of that, and then pretty cool. 2 additional kids to the 2 I already had the year I finished playing in the AFL, and there and just watching me play footy and yelling out from the boundary line, and my son and daughter fully engaged the twins running up at half time and quarter time and 3/4 time. It was just that community. That's what I love about it. And that's what, at its core, that's what you love about the game, right? It's just so Australian, so ingrained in people's, families and communities. And it was cool just to, go back and experience that for what it is.
Well, keep your head down and keep working hard, young fella. You might get a VAFA Anytime Fitness Rising Star nomination if you can keep this sort of form up.
I couldn't even make the best players, Jay, so I'm not sure what happened there.
I know. I looked at the best players, and, the coach, I thought you said the coach was one of your mates. He didn't even put you in the top 6.
Yeah,
exactly.
I reckon he stitched me up there. And then
goals.
the following day, I rolled in the women's game, and they all took the pee out of me when I got there, saying that I've kicked 6 and we've had a 175-point win, but I couldn't make popped an absolute ribbing from all the Melbourne players. So,
I thought that was a bit stiff.
That was a bit of fun.
That's all right. Keep your head down, mate. You'll get there.
Well, mate, you missed out on a flag. Missed out on a flag at Melbourne. A chance to win a flag at Old Peninsula. Does that appeal to you? Does that get you excited?
I don't know. It's not when I was young, but who knows, mate? Just to be a part of it, and if that is what eventuated, obviously I think the sort of Premier B back in the day, but it's been a long time, and to help them rise up the ranks would be something I'll be interested in helping them with, and building that connection, obviously, with the is something I'm sort of invested in as well. So who knows? We'll wait and see what's on the horizon.
Yeah, that connection with the school is just getting stronger and stronger. Jonesy, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. We love having you in the VAFA, mate. People of your quality and stature in our competition is a wonderful thing. And thanks so much for your time this afternoon.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for having me, boys. Take it easy and have a good year.
And I tell you what, if he and Bailey Pays sort of stick together in that forward line in the run home,
good luck.
Suddenly, what a battle it will be between the likes of Old Peninsula and Ormond. That would be an incredibly entertaining final series. And we have a look, Q's still hanging around, and then Preston are still a game clear in 4th spot. Gee, there's some really good teams in Division 1. As we check the rest of the results across the weekend, we've mentioned Peninsula's massive win. It was a huge win, 32-24, 216 over Elstonwick, 6-6-42, so 174 points. Ormond by 43 points, as we mentioned, 17-15, 117, defeated Preston, 11-8, 74 by 43 points. Oakley with Luke Ashen back in the mix, up forward, 15-11, 101, defeated Therry Panola, 10-12, 72. So 29-point win there for the Crushers. Q, a really important win for them, 22-point victory over Brunswick, 17-14, 116, defeating Brunswick, 14-10, 94. So as we take a look at the ladder, with a couple of games still to go. You got Ormond clear on top. They will finish on top. They are 3 games clear of Old Peninsula on 52. 1 game back to Q at 48, but Old Peninsula have a 20% advantage. So effectively 2 games. So you would think Ormond and Old Peninsula will finish top 2, and they'll play in the first week of finals. What a game that'll be. Q on 48, then Preston in 4th spot on 40. Oakley are 1 game back on 36 with a slightly superior percentage, about 0.6%. So it looks like the race between 4th and 5th is down to 2 teams between Preston and Oakley. and that's going to be one heck of a run home in the next couple of weeks. Preston play Brunswick. Oakley play Old Peninsula this week. And then in the final round, Preston play UHSVU and Oakley play the Monash Blues, who are down towards the bottom of the ladder. So that's going to be a fascinating run home in Division 1. Paddy, what's happening in D2?
Yeah, these are a few stories that we've been following throughout this season. Jason, Maddie and Brayden May. Canterbury we spoke about in previous weeks, but South Melbourne Districts, this is a story. So they started the year 0-4. Just a month ago, they were 5-7. They're now 9-7, and they're into the top 4, Brayden, with a massive win over MHSOB.
Yeah, well, you see these type of results sometimes later in the year, but you don't probably expect it to blow out to a 15, 16 goal win. The Swans are absolutely flying, and they've got a little bit extra to play for. News coming through on Tuesday morning that Nick Abbott, the coach, who I'm actually about to speak to, is standing down after 4 years involvement with the club, and no doubt he wants to send the club out on a high, and he's provided great stability to this club. They've had their challenges. You speak of European holidays, the Grand Prix getting moved off their ground. But yeah, they've been to the pointy end, but they just need to reach the summit. So they're a side you do not want to play at the moment because they're probably the most informed team in the competition.
Yeah, 144-50 over the Unicorns, 94-point victors, South Melbourne Districts. And elsewhere around Division 2, West Brunswick got it done over Aquinas, 80-55, though 10 goals, 20 behinds for the Maggies to 8 goals, 7. 25-point winners at home. Whitefriars got it done over Hawthorn by 50 points. St Mary's Salesian did it easily over the Jocks. St John's by 90 points. And then Old Yarra Cobras beating Canterbury by 65 points in the Battle of the Cobras. And as we flick over to the ladder, the top 2 is locked in, St Mary's Salesian and the Old Yarra Cobras. So it's St Mary's Salesian on 56 points, 2 points clear of Old Yarra Cobras in second. Then you go 10 points back, 2.5 games to West Brunswick in third, who are 2 games clear themselves of South Melbourne Districts, who are in fourth. 2 points ahead of Whitefriars in fifth, and a game ahead of MHSOB in sixth on 32 points. They're a game clear of Canterbury on 28. They're 2 games clear of St John's in eighth. And then we're done at the other end of the ladder as well. Aquinas and Hawthorn are now stuck in the relegation positions in 9th and 10th, both on 2 wins.
So we talk about not wanting to play South Melbourne. They've still got to make it, don't they? They're
Correct.
on 36, Whitefriars 34, MHSOB 32. So 3 teams effectively fighting over that last spot in fourth.
Yeah, they've got Canterbury this week to South Melbourne Districts, and then before the year ends, they'll play St John's as well on the road, though. So they're not quite locked away yet, the Swans, but they're looking a pretty sure bet in 2025. On to Division 3, Matthew Donald.
Yes, indeed, Paddy. And a lot of really important results, a lot of big games. But, Brayden, we've got to start at Bill Woodfull Oval between Albert Park and Chadstone. How about this for a turn-up for the books? 1 or 2 teams at different ends of the ladder, and Chadstone with the upset of the season.
Yeah, I've gone with that term. I think it's a fair one. Like, you go back to earlier in the season, and Albert Park won this game convincingly. They won by 141 points. But Chadstone rolled up. They had nothing to lose and claimed a 14-point win over an Albert Park side that I think we spoke about 2 or 3 weeks ago that were knocking on the top floor. And unfortunately for the Falcons, they've dropped right away. That's a great story for the Sinners. Like, I was going through the record books, and I actually couldn't find the last time they won more than 2 senior games this season. They're now up to 3, and it's a real credit to Ian Leder. He just brought in a game plan, really simple. He's all about teaching the guys, all about development. And I straight out asked him, what was the difference between this game and last week where they played another side towards the bottom of the ladder? And he just said attitude. And it came down to believing that they could win this game. And they got a good start. And once they got a sniff, as you see in these sorts of games, it can be very hard to stop momentum.
And on the flip side now for Albert Park, in terms of how there's only 2 games left of the season, 3 games outside the top 4, that's their finals race run and done.
Yeah, exactly right. And they'll be really disappointed with that. They had shown plenty of promise, but it just shows how hard and even this division is, despite what some records might show. And again, I think it just speaks to the true quality of the VAFA competition that if you're off 5 or 10%, anyone is beatable.
And then moving to a top 4 battle at Ross Gregory Oval, Powerhouse and North Brunswick. The 2 sides came into the match level on points. Big win for the hosts, Old Powerhouse, and they've gone top of the table.
Yeah, they needed that as well. They had a couple of hiccups in recent weeks, and it just sets up an interesting battle this week as well. North Brunswick v Wattle Park. So both teams still hunting the double chance there. I'm very hard inclined who to actually tip for the premiership. This division has just really had that many twists and turns throughout the season. I think it's going to be one that the best side is going to win on the day in elimination, semi-finals, prelims and grand finals.
It's an unusual one, isn't it? We're talking about all the top 2s being locked away in most of the other sections. This one, anyone in the top 4 could finish anywhere in the top 4 right now, because Richmond Central one game behind in 4th spot, behind Powerhouse on top, but with a much better percentage.
Yeah, there's one game separating 1st and 4th, and 3 of the 4 teams have a percentage of in excess of 200. Wattle Park's percentage is 195.
Yeah.
So it's really tight on the top 4. So we go through the rest of the results over the weekend. Wattle Park, we just mentioned, big win over Box Hill North, 18-14, 122 to 9-9-63. Richmond Central filled their boots. It could have been a cricket score. They won by 165 points, and it really, really could have been an awful lot more than that. 23 goals, 34.
57 shots.
172 to Ely Park, 117. Ely Park didn't score until the final term.
I just want to have a shout out to Ely Park, because their seniors and their reserves have had an incredibly tough year. But you know what they do? They turn up every week. Every week they turn up to fly the flag for their club, and I reckon that shows incredible character, incredible fortitude, and incredible loyalty. So shout out to Ely Park, because there'd be a lot of people around that just go, this is too hard.
Yep. No,
toss it in the towel. But they don't. They turn up every week. They keep fighting on for their club, and I think it's bloody fantastic.
No, I agree with you there, Jason. And in the other match, the Battle of the Universities, Latrobe Uni kicking away a 15-point win against Swinburne University. Scores level at three-quarter time, but a 5-3 final term for Latrobe, seeing them take the win 12-11, 83 to 10-8, 68. As we turn our attention to the ladder now at the conclusion of the weekend of football. Powerhouse and Wattle Park level on points, records of 13 and 3 each. Powerhouse with a percentage of 204, Wattle Park 195, we mentioned, so 9% gap there. And then one game back, it's a tie between 3rd and 4th, North Brunswick and Richmond Central on 12 wins. So one win separating the top 4. North Brunswick have a superior percentage there, 224 to Richmond Central, 216. Albert Park and Box Hill, both 3 games back. So the top 4 is decided. We know exactly who's playing finals. Now it's just a case of what order that's going to take place in. So Albert Park and Box Hill on 9 wins each. Then another 3 games back, Latrobe University on 6 wins. And then another 3 games back to Swinburne and Chadstone now, who have moved level with Swinburne on 3 wins apiece. Ely Park still looking for their first win of 2025. And some really important games this week. The headline one being North Brunswick and Wattle Park, 3rd against 2nd. What a contest that one's going to be.
Yeah, and that's the one, isn't it, really? Because if 2nd win, they kick further game clear, and they're good in the top 2. If they lose, they drop out of the top 2 and drop to 3rd, and they're looking at an elimination final potentially with only 1 game left to play. Braden, our KTV doubleheader this week is Premier Women's action, and it is a critical game for the Q Bears. They will head to Fearon Reserve and take on Willie's CYMS. Q sit 5th at the moment, about a game behind West Brunswick in 4th spot. Williamstown sit 8th, but last time we did a KTV game with them, they knocked over St Kevin's. It was one of the upsets of the season. They are a dangerous team. This has got banana peel written all over it for the Bears.
Yeah, it certainly does, especially at this time of season. I think every side that out of contention, I think you just get up a little bit extra when you're playing a team above you on the ladder. There's just something about the motivation to ruin someone else's season. It seems to get footy sides up and about.
When you take a quick look at the Premier Men's ladder, Braden, what are you thinking? What are you thinking about maybe who drops?
Yeah, let's throw a dart.
Yeah, it's a bit like that, isn't it?
We land. It's it just speaks volumes. I hate to say it, whoever goes down is going to be unlucky. Like, to go down with potentially 6-7 wins, that doesn't happen in any other competition. Usually, the teams that finish last or second last usually win 1 or 2 games for the season, I think it would be fair to say.
Yeah.
But a quality football side is going to go down this year. What's interesting is how important could those draws at Collegians and St Bernard's have at the moment? Like, the Snow Dogs they've been smashed by injury. Let's hope they get a couple back. Timing's everything, and if they win that, if the Collegians or Uni Blues or even the reigning Premier, if they're in trouble, we might see one of the biggest shocks in recent VAFA memory.
Yeah. I mean, we've had a bunch of draws between all those teams that are now hanging in there, the Blues, Collegians and St Bernard's this year. Normally you get one draw in a season, you think, that's unusual, but there's been a spate of them, and all around those teams that now find themselves in the relegation race. So it's going to be fascinating. Braden, thanks for your time as always, mate. Loving your work covering the VAFA from all angles. We'll chat to you next week.
Thanks very much, guys. Speak then.
Hey guys, at GYG we never compromise on the quality of our food. That's why we only serve 100% free-range chicken. We're on a mission to reinvent fast food, because who said fast food had to be bad food? Love ya.
Time to talk women's footy. We'll start with William Buck Premier Women's, and wow, Caulfield after 13 straight wins. What a bounce-back performance from St Kevin's, who of course lost to their arch rivals last week, Old Scotch, to drop down to 3rd. and St Kevin's bounced back to give Caulfield their first defeat of the season, 4-3-27 to 4-1-25 at Glen Huntly Park, and throw that premiership race wide open, that top 4 race wide open once again. So Caulfield will still finish top because they're 2 games clear of Old Scotch and St Kevin's, but Old Scotch has just had the bye this week, so St Kevin's now join them on 44 points, albeit having played 1 less game. As we go through the results of the weekend, it was round 15 of William Buck Premier Women's. Q, important win for them. Just got the 4 points. We'll talk about the Bears in a moment. They won by 49 points over Beau Morris, 9-8-62, defeating Bowie 1-7-13. Fitzroy in a thriller over Old Geelong, 6-6-42, defeated the Ogs 6-3-39. West Brunswick with a 19-point win, 7-5-47, defeated the CYMS 4-4-28. And as I mentioned, St Kevin's in a 2-point thriller, 4-3-27, defeating Caulfield Grammarians 4-1-25. So Caulfield Grammarians still stay on top. They're 52 points, 2 games back to Old Scotch and St Kevin's. West Brunswick, Q and Fitzroy, that's the interest in the race to make that last spot in the finals. The top 3 are locked in, Caulfield, Scotch and St Kevin's. The battle between Old Scotch and St Kevin's now to work out who finishes second and gets the double chance and who cops the elimination final. But all eyes are on West Brunswick, Q and Fitzroy to a lesser extent in the run home because the Roys have actually played a couple more games. So on match ratio, not in as good a position. But it leads us nicely into our KTV double-header game this weekend, kicking off just before midday on Community TV. Q in action. They're on the road at Fearon Reserve against Willie's CYMS, and we've seen the CYs knock over St Kevin's on KTV out at Fearon. Paddy, you know this ground very well. It is a little bit different to most grounds around the VAFA. It can be a bit of a graveyard. Danger game this for the Bears. They need to bank these 4 points and keep the heat on the Maggies.
Yeah, little and windy. I tell you what, I actually caught up with a few of the West Brunswick players across the weekend, and they weren't too enthused with their own performance against the CYs. So look for the Magpies to make a big response over the weekend as we turn the page over to Premier B Women's Jace, where the story from round 15 of the competition, 1 more week left, is Port Melbourne Chargers continuing on their merry way in their first season in football. They were 53-point winners over the Old Zavarians. St Bede's Mentone by 59 over the Muggers. Old Melburnians Senior Women's by 51 over Marcelin, and Old Brighton by 41 over the Old Yarra Cobras. Westbourne had the bye. So 4 beltings, really, it must be said, in Premier B Women's as we turn the page to the ladder there. And it is Old Brighton who will go through atop the ladder. Matthew Donald, they're having a great season. 13 wins and 1 loss from their 14 games.
Yeah, it's been a terrific season for Old Brighton, Paddy, and as you say, 2 games now clear of Old Melburnians, who are on 11 wins, and then 2 games behind them, Port Melbourne Chargers, who are only a game clear of Westbourne, so still a bit of manoeuvring there, potentially towards the back end of the season. Then a big gap, St Bede's Mentone on 5.5 wins, half a game clear of Marcelin in 6th. And we go further back, Old Zavarians, 4.5 wins, Old Yarra Cobras on 4 wins, and then Melbourne University still looking for their first win of 2025.
So the top 4 are locked in, the top 2 and the 3rd and 4th are locked in. So basically, in Premier B Women's, we know who's going to be playing each other in the first week of the finals. It's going to be Old Brighton taking on Old Melburnians in the qualifying final. It'll be Port Melbourne Chargers taking on Westbourne in the elimination final to see who wins the flag in 2025 in Premier B Women's. And finals begin in the women's competition this weekend. Division 2 and Division 4 Women's playing finals footy for 2025. So best of luck to all those teams in action this weekend. Congratulations on making it through to the finals action. And they kick off this weekend, as I mentioned, Division 2 and Division 4 women's finals to go with the thirds men's competition finals, which are also in full swing. It is finals time in the VAFA.
Now, Jace, it's time for everyone's favourite part of the podcast.
Well, where's my sting?
You have to do it.
Aren't you not creating one for me?
No.
You're the post-production guru. Is there really no sting for this week?
That's stretching the definition of guru. There hasn't been a sting all year.
If we didn't do
You're
this...
paid a substantial amount of money to do a live sting.
Mate, we're live.
And scare the peacock.
This is just embarrassing.
These pre-show meetings are going well, aren't they?
Oh, my goodness. So there's no sting for Tunwatch,
no
really?
Sting? No.
No sting for Tunwatch, brought to you by Sharon? Okay. Let's just get straight into it. And what a week not to have it. We better have a sting next week because we might be bringing up the ton.
I think the man himself may have to provide us the sting after how many goals on the
Jake
weekend?
Dillon, our man from Richmond Central, kicked 19 goals on the weekend, and he has gone from 76 to 95 for the season. He's kicked 44 goals in 3 weeks.
See that sound? That's the sound of Fred Fanning or
Oh,
being
no,
passed by Jake Dillon.
He's got Fred Fanning covered easy.
He's got
in the rear view.
5
He's gone.
goals to make the ton, and I'm pretty sure if we went back and found the grab, Joey Pignataro said he'd be the first man to jump the fence and run out and shake the hand of whoever kicked a ton this year, because it cannot be done. Well, I've got news for you. Jake Dillon is up to 95 goals. He kicked 19 on the weekend in a fantastic weekend for goal kickers. We had 7 in double figures.
How good.
Now, the weather has been so great. I'm looking at the weather apparently this weekend. It's not going to be so wonderful, but that's made a huge difference, hasn't it? You know, like a beautiful sunny day on a Saturday in the middle of winter, you
Not
can
much
kick
wind.
goals.
Fantastic.
Jake Dillon kicked 19, as I mentioned, for Richmond Central. Thomas Salinger for West Brunswick Thirds. He kicked 12, lazy dozen. 11 for Jack Colgrave from Old Geelong Rezzies. 10 for Luke Fursey from Marcelin Thirds. 10 for Jack Helmet from Old Carey Thirds. 10 for Will Reeves from Parkdale Vultures under-19s. And 10 for Brett Tottenham from Albert Park Reserves. 9, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the most any of our VAFA women's competition in a game this year. Has anyone kicked more than 9? Georgia Cropley from St Mary's Collegians Seniors, she kicked 9 on the weekend, which is a fantastic performance. 9 also to Jacob McElroy from St Mary's Collegians Seniors, and 8 to Claudia Hetherington from Fitzroy Reserves. 8 for Claudia over the weekend. So a couple of big bags there from our VAFA women's competition, which is wonderful to see. As we check our season leaderboard, and as I mentioned, after 44 goals in 3 weeks, Jake Dillon has gone from raising the bat for a half century to being on the verge of a ton. This is Glenn Maxwell-like.
This is Mitch Marsh in the Ashes a couple of years ago. He passes 50 and he starts sticking blokes everywhere. What a fantastic story.
Did the first 50 in singles and then everything else is coming.
Not running anymore. Everything else is in boundaries. So he's up to 95. He's now 19 goals clear of Blake Williams at Box Hill North, who kicked another 6. Blake on 76. He's clearly out in second spot. Jordan Hessline from Parkdale Vultures kicked 3 on the weekend. He's on 64. One goal back to Rory Calvert at Old Zabs on 63. Another 1 goal back to Luke Ashen, who booted 5 for Oakley on the weekend. He's at 62. Tom Callick on 55. Jack Hall and Jacob McElroy on 53. But Jake Dillon leads with 95 goals, and ton watch maybe this coming weekend. In our women's comp, those 9 goals to Georgia Cropley has seen her kick 4 goals clear. She's jumped up to the lead. She's on 42 for the season for St Mary's Salesian after kicking 9. She's 4 goals clear of Georgia Harris, who kicked 3 on the weekend for Port Melbourne Chargers. Georgia's on 38. 1 goal back on 37, Indiana Harrison from Ormond Seniors. She kicked 4 on the weekend. And then a further 2 goals back on 35, Hannah Smith from St Kevin's, who booted 1 on the weekend. So Georgia Cropley, 42. Georgia Harris, 38. Indiana Harrison, 37. Hannah Smith on 35. Tips time, gentlemen. Tips time. And we are back out to an 8-tip lead. Paddy Grindlay, you redeemed yourself this week. You picked a perfect 5 from 5 in Premier B.
Oh, okay, good.
You responded after a disastrous fortnight, and then you've bounced back and you've had a perfect 5, and you picked 8 for the weekend compared to 6. So you've opened up a gap of 8.
Phew.
And we will now talk Premier B round 16. It is our showcase game so every one of these 5 games will be live and free on vafa.com.au from 1:55 this Saturday. All 5 Premier B games. We've got Vossi the Peacock working on a mega wall, so you can just sit at home with a mega wall on vafa.com.au and enjoy all the Premier B action at once. It's going to be fantastic because, geez, we've got some good games.
How is the Peacock? He is looking a little bit green around the gills
well,
these days.
Yeah, the feathers are a little ruffled this year, the Peacock. He's not strutting as much as he did in 2024, that's for sure. We kick it off with Old Camberwell and Caulfield. What a game this is going to be. Whoa. Patrick, you're in front, so you have the honours. You tip first.
Okay, so Caulfield Grammarians to win this game of footy. They've won their last 4 by, I think, all under 17 points. And I think this would just about do it, depending on results for their place in 3rd spot. So Paul Sutterley for me. 8
tips down. Are you going to go some upsets here, Matty, or just zig when he zags?
Too far back, I reckon.
Right out of the gates, we are going to go switcheroo here. I'm going to go Old Camberwell with this one. I think that was a great win from Caulfield, but a really hard-fought one. And I think Old Camberwell at home might just have the legs to get over the top of them.
Critical game for the Ogs. They face Old Ivanhoe this weekend. Old Ivanhoe versus Old Geelong.
Apology for me straight out of the gate. It's 5 games in a row for Sats, margin of 14 points or fewer. For this game of footy, Old Ivanhoe. I think they get it done.
I'm going to be involved in this game, and I'm really looking forward to it. Old Ivanhoe a chance to pursue the minor premiership. Old Geelong need to win it for finals, but I'm going to go with Old Ivanhoe here.
Old Trinity and Fitzroy.
Old Trinity for me.
Yeah, Old Trinity as well.
Old Carey versus Willie CYMS. Massive game.
Yeah, it's
massive game.
There are two headliners. It's Caulfield and Camberwell, and it's Carey and Williamstown for me for this round of footy. I know my head is still on a dartboard somewhere at the Stags Hotel in Williamstown. I'm going to take it off myself. I'm going to tip the CYs to turn around their skid and do it on the road and show the resilience that they showed last year and be able to remain in the hunt, I suppose, for that fourth position that they currently sit in at the moment, but things are looking a bit shaky. So the CYs on the road to beat the Panthers.
All right.
Yep, I'm going to go with the CYs.
CYs as well.
As well, yes.
So that would get the CYs up to 36 points, and it would leave Old Carey one game back on 32. So whoever wins this game goes a game clear of the other in the race for the four. It is a huge game. Yep. Final game of Premier B for the weekend, Old Melburnians versus Hampton Rovers at Elsternwick Park.
The OMs, they're beat up, but they'll win this game of footy.
Yeah, going with the OMs in this one too.
William Buck Premier Men's, let's talk about round 16. And what a game. Anytime we have the University Derby between the Blacks and the Blues. But as we mentioned earlier, the Blacks can send the Blues back down to the drop zone. The Blues can just about end the Blacks' finals hopes. This will be a cracker of a game. It's our SEN game, 1:45 on Saturday. Blacks and Blues. Maddie, which way are you going?
Oh, this is a really difficult one. I think this is the one that I've had the most trouble picking a winner in because there's incentives for both to ruin the other team's prospects in 2025. No home ground advantage either, so about as even as it gets. Going to go the Uni Blacks because they haven't played badly, even though they fell away last week to St Kevin's. They could have very easily got the win. I know the Blues have been in very good form, and I'm liking them to avoid the drop, but I'm going to go with the Blacks here.
Yeah, Blacks for me as well, which would be very interesting for the Blues with the top two to come after that.
One of our VAFA live stream games, 1:55 on Saturday. Again, this is massive. It's Old Scotch and St Bernard's. Wow. Well, Old Scotch at the moment, just teetering. And St Bernard's, well, you can say the same about them. St Bernard's haven't beaten anyone but De La Salle since about round 4. So you'd have to say they're needing a massive turnaround in form. Right now, it's Scotch on 24, St Bernard's on 22 are in the drop zone. If Scotch can win this, they almost kick themselves clear, you would think. But if they lose, St Bernard's will jump above them and drag the Cardinals all the way down into the drop zone. Who do you like? 1:55, live and free, VAFA.com, Scotch and the Burnies.
A couple more sore boys for the Snow Dogs as well. Out of the loss to Collegians, I'm taking Old Scotch to just put away the relegation chat.
Yeah, be a game and a half gap between them and the drop zone with 2 to play. I'm gonna back the good Old Scotch to rock up this week and get a really important win.
Another VAFA live stream game from 1:55 at Harry Trott. It's Collegians versus Old Zavs. Collegians coming off a win. They also need to win to stay out of the drop zone. If they can win and St Bernard's lose, they go a full game clear of the Burnies, plus percentage with a couple to play to be enormous for them. But they're going to have to get over the league leaders. Until last weekend, Old Zavs on the bounce.
Yeah, hard to go past Old Zavs, but if we're looking at an upset, I think this is the most likely one with Collegians. But Old Zavs, I'm going to go with them. It's their only loss in 9 games, and it was to Old Brighton at home, who are a pretty reasonable side, so I'll go with the Zavs here.
Want an upset? I'll give you an upset. Collegians.
Wow.
Good man, Paddy.
I like it. Some ballsy tipping. Collegians over Zavs at Harry Trott. You can see that one live and free, 1:55 Saturday at vafa.com.au.
Going to get a few messages, I reckon, over the next couple of days. Hello,
Collegians
Cozzy.
buoyed by JORDIE McKENZIE's baby daughter, Grace.
Yeah, Grace to go 2 and zip.
Do it for Grace.
Do it for Grace. Under the arm.
Old Haileybury versus St Kevin's.
Oh.
Yeah, this is...
Another enormous game. St Kevin's sit on 40 points, 123.8. Old Haileybury sit on 36 at 109.1. They're a game clear of Uni Black. So St Kevin's have pretty much put themselves into finals mix. They're 2 games clear of the Blacks, plus 32%. So they've got the Blacks covered at this point, unless something disastrous goes wrong. They can definitely put it to bed if they win this week and make life very uncomfortable for Old Haileybury. But having said that, Old Haileybury, if they were to win and the Blacks lose to the Blues, they would go 2 games clear in the race for 4th spot. So Old Haileybury, St Kevin's, they may potentially meet again in the first week of the finals. Paddy, who do you like?
Who are you going to tip, Jace?
I think football will be the winner in this one. It's going to be a fantastic contest.
St Kevin's got done by 2 goals the last time of asking at the TH King Oval, and that will be fresh in the memory. St Kevin's to win.
Yeah, I'm going to go St Kevin's as well. There's a lot of 8-point games this weekend. It's great for footy, as you say, Joe. I think it is the case that footy is the winner. Going to go St Kevin's here.
I can't have 2 of you doing that.
I think it feels like they're finally starting to click things into gear, St Kevin's, and a good time to be doing so as well.
Final game of the weekend, top versus bottom. It is De La Salle hosting Old Brighton.
Old Brighton will win that game.
Yeah, hard to go past Old Brighton.
What a weekend of live stream action. We've never live streamed so many games in one weekend ever in the history of the VAFA. All 5 Premier B games live and free on vafa.com.au from 1:55. Plus, we've got the Collegians Zabs game. We've got the Old Scotch St Bernard's game. You'll hear the Blacks and Blues on SEN. Plus, we've got that double header between Willie CYMS and Q on KTV. Footy everywhere, the way it should be. To everyone playing finals this weekend, congratulations and best of luck. We'll be here to break it all down this time next week on For the Love of the Game.
Kick the ton, Jake.